Hey, you guys, what's going on? It's Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday after Thanksgiving. Day 3 or day 4 of like the Thanksgiving
Sunday?
food.
For some reason I was thinking it might have been Monday, but yeah.
No,
Sunday.
if it was Monday, we
Yeah.
would be talking about a haunting, wouldn't we?
right, yeah.
But we're not. Tomorrow we're going
Yeah.
to talk about a haunting.
Yeah.
This movie here. So I'm
This movie here.
I'm calling this episode. This is why we don't let Tom pick movies.
Yeah.
The episode.
No, look.
I'm just fucking with you.
It was good, kinda.
Yeah.
It's an Italian movie, dubbed like Italian movies are, but it's modern, and about a witch, and it's a demonic witch, a witch demon.
Yeah.
And it had some good horror scenes in it. The direction was okay during the horror scenes and the score. But this guy, whoever wrote this, he cannot write dialogue. It was like nobody's a real person in this movie. It's a little stale when it came to the dialogue. Just not really believable characters, really. But not a typical low budget movie though either. It's kind of one of those things that's in between. To me, a lot of Giallo kind of fucking is like this.
No, Giallo
Jenny
movies,
likes it a lot.
Giallo movies are a lot better than this.
I don't have good enough taste to know the difference. To me, I think they're kind of crappy. All right.
Well, you haven't seen a lot of them too, like you know. What I
Every
mean?
one of them that I've seen just kind of has a crappy feel to it, like this in a way, but just more modern crap. Although I think had the dialogue been written better, and had it not been dubbed, the movie probably would have been better. It's dubbed, but they're speaking English.
Yeah, you can tell they're speaking English.
Yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing, and that's kind of what I was thinking about this earlier today because I obviously give way more consideration to this kind of stuff, but that's what I do. I'm a writer. I analyze things because I'm interested in that kind of thing. It's like, oh, how did this go wrong and how could this be improved and yada yada. That actually like makes you a better writer, a better artist or something like that, watching bad stuff because you can like analyze it.
Yeah, you can see what went wrong.
Right. And so the thing about this one that I thought was very strange, I was like, clearly all of the actors, I'm going to say like the guy that directed this, whose name was Luca Gabriele Rossetti, this was his first movie, which should be pretty obvious, like if you watch it. Now, prior to this, he did work like on big movies, but he was like a visual effects guy. Like he worked on the Resident Evil, like Welcome to Raccoon City. He worked on that movie. The recent, like the Conan the Barbarian remake. So he was like a visual effects guy. And so him and like another guy wrote this, and this is his directorial debut. I'm going to say I feel like it's probably the debut of most of the actors too, because most of them were not really all that good, but it's kind of hard to tell, like I said, because it was dubbed. The weird thing is that when you're looking at it, like when everybody's talking, they're clearly speaking English, but they're just as clearly dubbed. So I was like, I'm assuming that, they're supposed to be Americans, and obviously they're probably all Italians, and so they didn't want them to have Italian accents, so they just dubbed them all over with American voices. But I'm like, with a couple of tweaks to the script, you could have just had them all be Italians.
Yeah,
and then they could have just talked in their regular voices, which I think would have gone a long way toward making the dialogue and like the acting seem not quite so stilted.
Yeah. I would have just let them be Italians and speaking English with an Italian
accent,
and that would have been fucking great. It felt real authentic.
Because there's no reason for them to be Americans. They didn't have to be Americans.
And were they in Italy? I think they were in Italy. Yeah. They should have just. There was no reason why they had to be Americans. I think he felt that maybe for marketing purposes.
That's got to be the only reason.
They had to be American. Which that's a big mistake. I wouldn't have done that. Not with the cast that he had. And I would have left them Italians speaking either Italian. I would have shot two different versions: an Italian version where they're speaking Italian for his domestic market, and I would have done an international version where they're speaking in English, and let them have their natural Italian
just
accents.
let them talk normal, because there's, like I said, there's literally nothing in the story that necessitates them being American.
No.
I think the only reason that was there was because they thought, like, American suckers like us would watch it. Well, it worked. We did.
Yeah, we watched it. But it didn't make a good impression, and it felt cheap because of that. And a lot of it wasn't just the fact that it was dubbed and that the voice acting was kind of not good.
Yeah.
A big problem with it is that the story is really laced with a bunch of stereotypical kind of Americanisms to like, hey, we know how Americans act. No. Whoever wrote this dialogue doesn't know how Americans talk, and they don't know how Americans talk to each other, even though this is supposed to be in 2008. There's nothing really America 2008 about it, even the fashion. That was not in 2008.
That's another thing. I didn't really understand why it was specifically set in 2008. Again, there was no reason for it to be set in 2008 because the movie was made in 2021. Yeah. So why not just make it in the modern day? Right. It seemed like it would be a lot easier because I think even the cars were newer than 2008.
Yeah.
And you're just like shooting yourself in the dick when you don't have a lot of money.
And there was, usually when they put it in the past, they're trying to make a story that avoids cell phones. They had cell phones in this.
They did, just like the 2008 flip phones. Yeah, but
so why bother?
Right.
I would have made it in the modern times, in 2021 with Italian kids, where maybe you could write the dialogue a little bit better for Italian culture, where it makes sense, and because there's a lot of stuff in this that. It's kind of like that Newen guy with the Birdemic and how he thinks Americans date.
It came across kind of like that. And I think maybe it was like I said, maybe it's a lost in translation issue because like maybe the writers, directors, maybe English is clearly not their first language. Yeah. And so whenever they're writing this supposedly naturalistic sounding dialogue, it sounds not like real people would. It sounds like an alien in a skin suit.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody pretending. I would have hired an American writer to write that dialogue, but maybe he didn't have time or didn't have access. I wouldn't have bothered though. I'd let him
just let him be Italian.
I'd let him be Italian, and then it would have come off as real authentic and be like, man, this is an exotic movie from Italy. It's doing good, because the movie is actually shot pretty well. The story's okay. The horror scenes are good.
Yeah, they're not super good. Original, but they look nice. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's got a good score behind it, and when you're talking about the limited budget that this movie was put on, it was pretty good. The horror sequences were pretty good. It seemed like the rest of the movie was just kind of like filler to justify those horror scenes. Is the big tonal shift.
That's kind of the impression that I got. Because I said, like I said, a lot of the scenes of horror, they got a really good setting. I will say that. Just like this big, huge, like Italian mansion. I don't know where they got it. So it doesn't look like a cheap movie. You know what I mean? It looks like somebody new. Well, like I said, the guy that directed it, he's a visual effects guy, like on some big movies. So he obviously knows what he's doing. Yeah. But I did really kind of feel like it was a series of creepy scenes that were not all that original, but were still kind of well shot, strung together, and it's like the rest of the time they didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
So it's like well,
filler.
let's have all these characters just like sitting around talking and shooting the shit, and and hey boobies. Yeah. And then
hey they're American.
And hey they're Americans. Yeah. And then it didn't hang together all that good. And and we woke up a witch. Oopsie.
Yeah, it didn't feel natural. It's a similar kind of premise to an old horror movie called The Evil, where they go to a...
Yeah, now that you mention it.
But if you look at how The Evil is edited and how that story rolls on, it's minimal, all right? It's just one thing happens after another. And The Evil actually is a good movie. It is. And part of it is because it's not trying to be something that it isn't. It's not trying to be too deep. It's not trying to be too... artistic. It's just a horror. It's just like a horror ride at an amusement park. Really, one thing happens after another. It's all scary. You don't know what the hell's going on. And then there's ghosts. And then there's a demon. So it's a good little story. But this is very similar premise. And I think the director should have gone back and looked at something like The Evil, and saw how minimal the dialogue is. Or how the dialogue actually should be minimalistic in these kind of movies, and the special effects and horror scenes should be kind of as much as possible, but it has to be strung together one thing happening after the other, almost like Friday the 13th. Like, you know, the first couple Friday the 13th were like that. But, yeah.
I'm actually
It had potential. And
it did.
And it's not a terrible movie. It's just, there were some decisions that were bad decisions made.
I'm going to say, too, that, like, overall, I felt like, as much as, like, some of the horror scenes were, like, actually good, they were a little dark. I couldn't really, like, sometimes I couldn't tell what was going on.
Well, they don't want you to see that there isn't a whole lot going on. They want your imagination to go.
I know, but
they're trying to do kind of what they did from that Hereditary, isn't it? Or, isn't that the name of that movie that you like? Remember how there was like spooky shit happening in the corner?
Yeah.
He tried to do a little bit of
like
that
they did do that a couple of times, but I kind of feel like, well, particularly the beginning scene, because there's actually a beginning scene that takes place like in the late 19th century, right? It takes place in the 1800s, where the whole where you find out like what the origin. I don't know if you necessarily find out what the origin of the witch is, but kind of like how the witch got like so how she ended up in this mansion or whatever, and you know there's like little kids being killed and stuff, and that part kind of had potential. Like I said, I kind of feel like when we started watching, I was like, oh, this seems pretty good. I will say that part went on a little bit too long, and that there were a little too many shots of like lightning in the sky and stuff like that, which maybe was stock footage. I'm not really sure. So then they wanted to like make it longer. I feel like this movie could have been a lot shorter. It's an hour and 43 minutes, and it doesn't really need to be that long.
No, 20 minutes could go out.
I mean, 20 minutes could easily be trimmed out of this, like no problem at all. And so like the beginning part, I feel like you kind of wanted to know what was going on at the beginning, like with the guy and like the witch and the little kids getting dragged out and killed and the witch getting like nailed to the tree or whatever. But it was so dark that I couldn't really tell what was happening. Like I got the gist of it, but you couldn't really see it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So then there was that. And then like the rest of it, you know, when they get like they jump ahead to 2008 for some reason, and then like all these kids show up, and like I said, this massive mansion, it's like it looks really cool. I don't know where they shot it. It's like a real place, obviously. But it's like this big manor house in Italy somewhere. And like the one guy is saying that he inherited it, I guess, like from his grandparents.
Yeah.
And, you know, then later on he tells him about the story about the witch and all the murders and shit like that.
Now, here's the problem with this. This strange credulity. Boy, you get older, you can't fucking pronounce anything.
I talk good.
They're pretending as if this is a spooky old place out in the middle of nowhere. And it clearly is not. It is clearly a place that's in real good condition with a manicured lawn, and it is clearly in a rich neighborhood. It's not out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But they're pretending that it is. But houses like that don't exist out in the middle of nowhere. You know, they're out with other houses that are just like.
I mean, there's a lot of grounds around it. Like you can't see other houses around it because it's got land and trees and shit like that. But yeah, they kind of go out there. It's like, oh, we went out here, we've got to the place, we partied, and then we discovered that the car won't start, and it's like now we can't go get any food.
Leave. We're trapped here.
And I was just kind of like, and then it's like, oh, well, let's go look through the house, like to see if there's like some old canned goods that his grandfather left there that you could still eat or
from
something
40 years ago
from like World War II or whatever.
Yeah, none of that makes any sense. The house is obviously in good condition. It's not abandoned or anything. It's got, it at least has caretakers or people living in it. It's been freshly painted, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a dump at all. No. It's actually like really nice. No, it's a beautiful location.
If you go on YouTube and look at some urban exploration channels and you see houses that have been abandoned for decades. No, that's not what they look like. Fucking the water fucking leaking through, shit starting to mold. There's a fucking fine layer of fucking dust on everything. They're creepy, you know. A house just can't survive forever without a AC going on in the inside and without people fucking maintaining them. They'll slowly fall apart. But they're pretending as if they're in the middle of nowhere. But anybody who knows anything knows that houses like that or mansions like that are built in areas like Bixby Knolls, or I don't know what Bixby Knolls is like nowadays, but like out here in fucking where Dr. Matt lived. What was the name of that place? Not Sanford, the other one next to it, where it's just one mansion next to another one. They got a big grounds. You can't really, one mansion can't see the other. But it's like there's lots of them. It's like one golf course next to another golf course, next to another golf course, next to another. So that's what they look like, and it's going to be the same way with that house. And you can see the perimeter of trees around it blocking the view of the other mansions that were next to it. So it's just, they didn't need to be, the story didn't need to say that they were stranded. You could have used another method, like, some of the British ones, they couldn't leave because there was a damn force field. Remember, every time they left in the car, they'd end up arriving again.
Yeah.
That was a good, because the witch, if you're dealing with witchcraft and magic, and that's what you were seeing in The Legacy. Remember the movie The Legacy? Yeah. They got in the car and left, and no matter what road they took, all roads led right back to the damn house.
Yeah, because if you're opening up the supernatural, there can be like supernatural reasons for you not being able to leave.
Right. So you don't have to come up with the hokey idea. Well, the car doesn't work, and we're far out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. No, mansions like that aren't in the middle of nowhere, really.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And the fact that they didn't like think to bring any food with them, even though they looks like they brought plenty of booze and drugs though. Yeah. But they didn't bring any food, like any snacks with them.
Yeah, that was kind of, and then you're now missing an opportunity to where food should have just appeared, like the witch was fucking feeding them. But then it turns out later that what they were eating was something real fucking nasty, and they didn't know.
See, that's a good
That's
idea.
like something a witch would do. It looks like a fucking feast.
Fucking witches, man.
But then eventually you figured out that no, it was like fucking roadkill that you were eating.
Yeah, like she put a glamour on it and made it look really awesome.
It made it taste awesome. It made you think that it was, but it was actually just roadkill. Yeah.
It had maggots and worms and shit all over it.
So there's all kinds of shit that.
Or they were eating a dead friend of theirs, or some shit like they're like a dead person. Some of them were the
people that went disappearing. They were cannibals. So if you're opening up the supernatural, you can run with it. It doesn't take a lot in terms of fucking special effects money, and I just don't know why there's a lot of wasted opportunity in this for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I
mean, they were doing cool shit in fucking mansion stories and shit back in the 70s and the 80s, like The Legacy or fucking Shockwaves, where they're supposed to be on a desert island with fucking zombie Nazis, but that's just up the road here in fucking Florida, some hotel. I think it's still around. It's downtown. It wasn't on a desert island. It was downtown. Now.
The neutral container said, I kind of want to see this now, just because of the panning. Not because I expect it so bad it's good film, but out of scientific curiosity. This one, it's like, I don't know. It's like the horror scenes are okay. Yeah. Like, I've seen better, I've seen worse. It's like they're solid, they're passable. It's mostly like the characters and the dialogue that is like very strange. It's like it's not quite to like the level of The Room or something like that, but it is like it's real cringe. There's like a couple of scenes, like there's one scene with that one character and that other character. I don't remember any of their names, but where they're like and one of them is like smoking pot or something, and they're talking about the whole releasing the witch issue, which none of them believe at first, because why would you? And they're sitting there going, it's ridiculous. Yeah, that's right. I agree, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They say ridiculous like 50. I'm just like, I was like, shut up. Like, I didn't understand if that was like supposed to be funny or if like I was just like, what? I don't get like what they were doing.
It didn't come across in the voice editing, and nobody in the voice. Yeah, the voiceover didn't really come off.
Right.
In the voice acting as humor. It just comes off as bad writing, and nobody talks like that. It would have been better if it was Italian.
Yeah.
Italian dialogue with just subtitles would have been much better. If it was naturalistic and that's the way Italians talk, it would have come across a lot better.
A lot better,
probably,
yeah.
I think. And then there's like one dude in here who's supposed to be, he's got a hot goth girlfriend, and and I think it was the goth girl that he was.
Yeah, that was the dude, goth girl's boyfriend.
Yeah, and he's walking around all fucking alpha and macho shit. And this dude is obviously gay.
He's very, very clearly.
He's obviously gay.
He's
clearly
very, very
gay. I don't buy him as a heterosexual at all. No straight man moves like that, waves hands like that, or talks like that, or no.
I mean, we didn't hear his real voice because he's dubbed,
but
but you could tell just from his body language.
Yeah, that dude's gay.
So
it didn't fit.
Which, like I said, is fine, but it's like, I don't understand like why they didn't just make the character gay, or why are they trying to like so establish that he's hetero when he's clearly not?
Right.
I just thought that was very, very weird.
Yeah, I
too.
didn't buy that he was heterosexual.
And then like later on, spoiler alert, but then it turns out like some plot point which doesn't actually like mean anything or factor into anything, but you find out because we were like joking, and it's like when the goth girl who was his girlfriend was like talking about like, oh, everything's not how it seems, or our relationship isn't that good. Like we were gonna say, oh well, that they're gonna say, oh well, he's gay,
Right.
but no, it turned out she is bisexual.
Yeah, and that she doesn't care that she's bisexual. It's not a big deal. It's just
And
like
that she slept with a woman and she like cheated on him and stuff. And I was like,
yeah,
there's another missed opportunity.
In China.
Yeah, when they were on vacation in Shanghai. And it was
Yeah,
like, but that's really weird that she brought that up.
Yeah, but if it didn't matter,
But it doesn't factor into anything.
Didn't factor into
either.
anything. It was just an Americanism, I think, that was thrown in there.
There was just so much
They had to
dialogue and like
Yeah.
so much characterization that didn't factor into the story.
For some reason, he decided he had to have a goth girl in there, so there was a bunch of stereotypical Americanisms thrown in on top of these characters.
And wasn't she like supposed to be psychic too?
Yeah, and they never really
did anything
any
with
of
that either, because she was talking on the phone to her brother. I think it was
Yeah.
her brother they established later, and she was saying, oh, I just like feel weird about this house, and she was like the first one that like saw ghosts of like the dead girls that got killed back in the day by the witch, but that didn't really factor into anything either.
No, and then they home in on her as if she's the lead character, but as far as I can tell, the ending is kind of inconclusive, but I guess she gets killed. I don't really understand what.
Yeah, they
why
kind of
she
left
was the
that
lead.
hanging.
Yeah.
And then they did like they did like an end where it seemed like, I don't know if she got killed or they
She
just kind of
became-
left it hanging. And
Yeah.
then they did like a weird, ooh, was it all a dream thing?
Right.
And then they came back and then they kind of set it up for a sequel,
Yeah.
it seemed like. So there was like 3
I
different
think
endings.
that's what it was. You were
Like
supposed
a little bit.
I think you were supposed to find out what happened to her in the sequel.
Yeah,
think
because
that's
it was
what it
pretty
was.
obvious that they were trying to set up a sequel.
But the thing is that the story wasn't really good enough to make you want to see the signal. The make you want to see the sequel. Like, I'm not like, well, what happens next? I really don't care.
Yeah, that's
I don't really care.
and that was the sad thing about it.
They tried so much, I think, to give these characters characterization and like character development, but it was done in such a wooden fashion that you kind of don't care about these characters. You would have cared more about them if there was less of the character. You know what I mean? If it was more minimal. Like, the characters from Friday the 13th 1 and 2 and even 3, there's not much there. It's pretty paper thin, but you felt like you knew them just based on, because they were real naturalistic, most of them. They kind of talked like real people.
I feel like particularly in a horror movie, I always think it's better, and this is it's something that I see in novels, and it's something I see in movies and stuff like that, like for people that are, just starting out like writing or whatever, is when you're doing characters, particularly in horror, it's always better to establish characters not through dialogue or exposition, but through the way they react to the shit that's going on.
Yeah.
I always think that's better. And if you're going to have like characterization, like scenes of them like fucking around or just doing normal shit, I kind of feel like the conversations that they have should tie in with the larger theme. Like, you don't really need, because I feel like that was what happened a lot in this one. There were so many conversations and so many things that happened in the beginning, and you could tell that they were trying to establish character, but none of it meant anything, and none of it was referred to again. Like, what was the whole thing with I guess this did factor into some shit, but one of the guys, and another thing too, is that 2 of the guys in here looked really similar. And one of the guys, his girlfriend was fucking the other guy, and for a long time, I didn't realize that she was cheating on him with the other guy because I thought it was the same guy.
Yeah, they look like.
And then I was like, oh, that's a different guy.
Yeah.
She's fucking around behind his back. I was like, okay, that didn't occur to me because the 2 guys looked so similar that I thought it was the same dude. And it's just like, so there was that. So, there was this whole thing about the 2 of them, and it's like he was going to propose to her and stuff like that, but then she was fucking around behind his back. And it's like, but that didn't really factor into the larger story, though. And like I said, the whole thing with, the goth girl being psychic and her having relationship problems, that didn't factor into the story at all. And it's like, so I felt like a lot of the dialogue was just like wasted. It was just kind of like them just talking about random shit that didn't have anything to do with it.
It ends up just feeling like filler. And And then it would be so much better if the characters were trimmed down to just their bare minimal, like you said, reactions to what's going on. That's all you need to know out of them. And then instead of using them as filler, just add more scenes of stuff happening. Shit that was spooky. Finding secret doors. Finding fucking pieces of a damn spell. Finding this, finding that. People almost getting killed. An animal getting killed. Something like that. That always happened in some of these witch movies like The Legacy, finding dogs dead or finding pieces, or somebody gets killed and you find pieces. There's a bunch of shit that should have been done in this movie to build the tension. Now, during the scenes when some horror was going to happen, I thought it was effective at building suspense and tension. I'm not scared by any of this shit. I know all the tricks, but the score was correct. The blocking was kind of correct in that, So the horror elements, I didn't see a problem. Could have been more gore, more practical effects every now and then, but might have been limited by budget.
I mean, there was some gratuitous nudity, so if you're into that, like,
but
a couple of the girls showed their boobies.
Yeah, but not much payoff there. They're
not really.
They're not. They weren't like voluptuous by American standards,
And the one scene, like, toward the end with the goth girl, and she was just like, hey, let's just show her in the shower, you know what I mean? Just for no reason. Like I said, there was no reason. Yeah, there's no reason. But, I mean, there doesn't have to be a reason because it's titties, but you know what I mean? It was like...
Kind of titties.
Kind of titties. I just thought that was, like, sort of funny that they did that. But, yeah, I mean, the scene... I kind of feel like the scene that was in the trailer, like, with the room with the mannequins, that was kind of, like, the best scene in the movie. Yeah. And, like, the rest of it... And even though, like, having a room with the mannequins... Like, it didn't make any sense, or, like, again, it didn't really tie into the lore. Yeah. You could tell that they were trying to homage Evil Dead in this, because the goth girl was named Ash, and they found a book at some point that looked kind of like the Necronomicon book from Evil Dead, like, a little bit. Yeah, I forgot about but it's not funny. Like, there's really no humor in it. No. So, can we say, too, that the witch, like somebody was, I think Danny was asking about the witch, like what kind of witch it was. It was kind of like a witchy demon-y situation.
It was a demonic witch that came from hell. It wasn't a, I don't know if it
they called it a strige or a stridge.
A stridge.
Which I looked that up.
Is there a thing?
It's kind of a real thing.
Okay.
There is a variation of that word, which comes from ancient Greek screecher, and it actually means a screech owl, or it could also be a witch. Okay. So, I mean, there is, like, striga, I've heard that before, like, as a reference to a witch. So it's not entirely pulled out of their ass.
All right.
You know what I mean? So it is a real thing.
The thing is, though, is that it doesn't look all that cool.
Well, you can barely see it, too. Like, you can barely see it.
Fucking... It should have looked like that damn La Llorona. Remember that La Llorona?
La Llorona.
La Llorona. Yeah, that shit fucking looked scary. La Llorona. It should have looked...
I thought it did kind of look like that when you could see it, but most of the time you couldn't see it. Like, most of the time it was just, like, in the background. Yeah. Well, like, just as, like, a silhouette type thing.
The whole wedding fucking gown was fucking spooky on the La Llorona thing. And then... Or it should have looked like the damn witch out of that newer fucking witch movie where it came out and it killed them all. Remember, it was a remake of that other Italian one. You love it. You love it. You had a poster of it. Suspiria.
Oh,
Suspiria. The second Suspiria.
Oh, the remake of Suspiria.
Yeah, the remake of Suspiria. That's what I'm saying. That damn demon that came out of during that ritual and killed them all at the end. That thing was fucking spooky looking too.
Yeah.
Killed all those other witches. Should have looked like something like that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just, like I said, I can see how some of this was okay, but I feel like this is one of the pitfalls of just randomly scrolling through Tubi, which this was on Tubi.
She's mad. She's gonna blame me.
No, that's not what I was gonna say.
She's gonna say Tom's gonna see some shit and go, let's watch that. But hey, you know.
Well, see, I told him last night. It's like we need to watch a movie. I was like, do you want to watch another Universal movie? Do you want to watch a Hammer movie? Do you want some? But then we were just like scrolling through Tubi, and he's like, "Oh, that looks good. Let's just watch that." Yeah. So we just picked it at random. Like we just saw like part of the trailer.
And here's the thing: it looked like an American movie at first, the way they were advertising it, and then we're realizing that it's dubbed. And I go, "This is an Italian movie." I probably would have jumped on it earlier or with more gusto had it been kind of portrayed as an Italian movie. But, you know, that's just us, though. We don't have anything against Italian movies, but hiding the fact that it's an Italian movie doesn't make any sense.
That's what I mean. I do kind of feel like they were trying to, like, sneak in.
Like sneaking in.
And I was like, why can't it just be an Italian movie?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that the actors in this were great actors, because they weren't. But I'm just saying that I think they seemed worse because they were dubbed.
Yeah.
And I don't think the voice actors were good.
No.
So maybe if they would just talked in their normal voices, like it would have come across better.
Yeah.
Because like I said, some of the dialogue in this was just, it sounded like it was written by somebody who English wasn't their first language. Which, like I said, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that run it through somebody who English is their first language, or make the characters not American.
Yeah. Foreign movies are always better when they're allowed to be foreign.
Yeah, just be the way, work with what you got.
Yeah, we've seen some great Spanish horror movies, Italian horror movies, British horror movies. Just, you know, of course that's English, but no, let them be from the countries that they come from. They represent their culture better, you know. Like, you want to see, okay, you're like, all right, we're gonna have the Japanese tell us a story. Let's go. You know, I'm watching a Japanese movie to see Japanese people. To hear them fucking tell the story.
Yeah, it's like we've got tons of American movies.
We got American shit. Right?
We want to see your shit.
Right, yeah.
Don't try to make a movie like our shit.
Yeah.
We got those.
Right.
It's not that.
Well, that's very retro thinking. That's like something from the 70s or the 80s.
That's what I was thinking.
Back when they were dubbing Mad Max into English. When Mad Max was in English. Fucking, that didn't make any goddamn sense. That made no fucking sense.
Yeah, they did that back then, didn't
Mad
they?
Max.
When they released the Australian Mad Max, where they were all speaking English.
Yeah. That was like, what the fuck? And that movie made so much more sense when the Australian accents were in there.
Yes.
It seemed so much higher quality.
Yes.
When you heard the original dubbing with the original track, you're like, this is a good quality movie.
Right.
Yeah, okay, no, we thought this was a shitty movie. Like, this is a quality movie.
Yeah, I mean, other than, I give a pass to Giallo movies because I'm just kind of used to that with, like, that whole gestalt, because they were all kind of dubbed.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of used to incorporating that. And I'll give a pass also to, like, Kung Fu movies, because that shit's funny, like, when it's dubbed. Yeah. But overall, I do not like when movies are dubbed. No. And this is the reason why. I'm like, it's too distracting that's not that person's voice. Yeah. I don't know what their inflections sound like. It always makes the acting performance seem worse, and it makes the movie seem like a lot cheaper.
Yeah, to see in the old Italian model of the Giallo movies is that everybody just spoke the language that they spoke, and they would just dub it into 20 different languages so it could play all over the world and all over Europe. Because but that, you don't need that anymore. People will listen to the normal dialogue. And those productions don't have a mixed cast anymore where everybody speaks a different language. They don't do that anymore. You can get everybody speaking the same language and just put it out in the language you recorded in. They got subtitles nowadays. And people are watching these on smart TVs and devices. Just hit closed caption. You know, I mean, I watch a movie from anywhere. You know?
I always put the closed captioning on anyway because I'm deaf as shit, and even when they're speaking in American, I have a hard time like.
They're talking in American.
Even when they're talking American, I usually put the closed captioning on because it's like. Because mostly, like, most people talking sound like you're coming through the McDonald's drive-thru speaker to me all the time. So it's like I miss a lot of stuff because everybody sounds like wah, 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 like Charlie Brown's teacher. You know what I mean?
I hear it, but then there's something where sometimes little details would be lost on you if it wasn't written.
Yeah, because sometimes people like whisper something, and I'm just like, what? What? You know what I mean?
Or somebody in the background says something's not that clear, and then it says,
and then maybe it's important to the plot. So I do like to have that on. And Camp Guy said the same thing. We use text subtitles for just about everything we watch. Yeah, we do too. Usually the only time I turn it off is if I'm watching Mystery Science Theater, because then it's like too distracting. Because then you have because they do the closed captioning on the dialogue in the movie, and then also they do all the closed captioning of all the jokes. And a lot of times, the jokes aren't as funny, like if you can read them ahead of time. You know what I mean? It's like, I know that's weird.
Because of the timing.
Yeah, because of you need the comedic timing. So usually that's the only time I turn it off. But the rest of the time I leave it on. But I don't know. I just kind of wish they had such an awesome location. And like I said, particularly with horror movies, if you don't have a lot of money. I'm always just kind of like, work with what you have, right around what you have. It seemed like they sort of did that to a little extent. Like, it's like, we have this fabulous mansion in Italy and we're going to shoot there. And it looked fantastic, although I have no idea why, if you had a mansion like that, you would paint it mustard yellow,
It's
for
an
Christ's
Italian
sake.
thing. It's an Italian
But,
thing.
because I was
yellow
like...
mansion. It's ridiculous.
I was like, look at that. Oh my God. And some of the inside was like bright yellow too. But it's like, why?
In the U.S., only a drug dealer would fucking paint a fucking mansion yellow.
Or like that. I mean, mostly because I kind of feel like you'd want it to like more blend into the you know, surrounding landscape. Like, it would be kind of pretty. So you know what I mean? So I don't know why you'd paint it like that, like a falling color.
It's like mustard yellow.
It was like mustard yellow. And yeah. So I mean, but it was a beautiful place. It had beautiful grounds, and it's like,
And
you
it
have
obviously was not abandoned.
Well, yeah.
Obviously
like I
not,
said, it was like the lawn was mowed, all the trees were trimmed and everything.
Yeah, you need a whole fucking ground crew 24/7.
Right, it's massive.
Yeah.
So, you know, the road was all nice and neat and everything like that.
Everything
so
was clean inside.
Right.
And houses don't stay that way if they're not being upkept.
Yeah.
10 years later, that shit just looks like a fucking tomb in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I just kind of feel like they had a gorgeous location, and with some tweaks, they probably could have made this like I don't think it would have been a great movie, because like I said, the story isn't that original. You know what I mean? You go on vacation to this creepy old mansion that somebody inherited, and then suddenly somebody unleashes a demon witch, you know, as happens sometimes when you're on vacation. But I just kind of feel like this could have been a solid movie if they had sort of just like worked with what they had. Like I said, there's no reason absolutely that these characters had to be American, and just trying to make them American just sort of made it, I don't know. Didn't we see another one like this? I was reading a review of this movie. And actually like go on Rotten Tomatoes and like read or IMDb rather, and like read the reviews of this, which are almost all 1 star. But
On this one?
Yeah. Other than like 2 at the end that are like 10 out of 10, and I'm like, that's somebody that worked on the movie there. But you know, not, you know, and I hate to like shit on people like that, because it's like, you know, people worked really hard on this. Clearly it doesn't look like a really low budget movie, but I don't know, I just kind of feel like with some tweaks this could have been like pretty good. And some of the horror aspects of it were okay, but it just seemed like all the dialogue and the overdubbing and stuff like that was just so bad that it was kind of hard to sit through, to be honest. And it was too long. Like I said, it didn't need to be an hour and 43 minutes. No way. The neutral container said, I've reached a point in my life where I even prefer subtitles when I don't understand the language at all. I'm from Germany, a country with a huge dubbing culture. Hugo said, they just recommended me 1974 Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell with Peter Cushing. Is it any good? Is it considered a Hammer movie? I don't remember if it's considered a Hammer movie. I remember it being pretty good, but I haven't seen it in a long time. Slasher Fred said, Mystery Science Theater 3000 was such a classic show. Yeah, it is. And honestly, Tubi has a fuck ton of the episodes and has a bunch of riff tracks too. Because I don't know if you know, but like the 3 guys, Mike and Bill and Kevin Murphy, they still do riff tracks, and they release stuff all the time. You know, and they have the new MST on Netflix, which I actually liked. Well, it's not actually, it was on Netflix for like a season and a half, and now they have their own thing called the Gizmoplex, which is all new people, but those are pretty funny too. It's a slightly different style, but it's kind of the same concept. Jeff Yart said, last night I watched The Mummy on Tubi. I haven't seen it in 30 years, and I really appreciate how much stronger it is than Dracula. The latter was good, but The Mummy had a more solid narrative. Yeah. I agree. I love the Bela Lugosi Dracula, but for some reason, like The Mummy, I really, really like.
Well, you could tell they watched Dracula and took notes, and they're like, "How do we beat that?" And it's almost the same story.
It is pretty much. Yeah,
it's just a different motif laid over it with a lot more character in it. Of course, you know, Dracula with Bela Lugosi is fucking great, but he doesn't say a whole lot. Say, in The Mummy says a lot of shit, so you get to know him a lot better. I liked it. Too bad that Dracula didn't have that much dialogue or Dracula dialogue in it, because there's a lot of shit Dracula should have said and a bunch of shit he should have done, but they were just limited in technology and budget, and they were limited by the book. I think they stuck to the book a little too much. Dracula should have done more stuff once he got to Carfax Abbey. More should have happened. because not a lot happens. They stake him. He has a few conversations with people, and they fucking drive a stake through him. That's basically what happens.
Slasher Fred said, one of these days, you guys should watch and review the 1989 thriller Dead Calm. Oh, I remember that being really, really good. I'll have to look that up because, yeah. I don't know. Have you ever seen that? I saw it back in the day, like back in the 90s on cable, and I remember that being really good. It's like an early Nicole Kidman, and Billy Zane is in it, your first wife's boyfriend.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys think that shit's funny. Billy Zane, or my first wife, had a thing for fucking Billy Zane. Whenever she'd see him, she'd start melting and shit. And I'd look over like that, and she'd be
looking at Billy Zane.
She just thought he was fucking super hot.
That's funny. So now I think
he was
every
fucking,
time that you say that, now it's like it's
yeah.
And honestly, though, every time I think of Billy Zane, I think it's like, oh, it's that asshole from Titanic, or it's that cool guy from Demon Knight who made the sponge come out his mouth.
The movie that she mostly watched and the one to worship Billy Zane was the most was that's his name, Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Was Orlando.
Oh Orlando? Yeah, I remember that coming out. I don't think I've ever seen it though.
It's actually a pretty good movie. It's about a weird person who started off as a man, and she's like an immortal. He's like an immortal. It's played by a woman. It's like an immortal. Somebody told her that not to die. I think one of the queens from the Middle Ages or something told her not to die, so she wouldn't die.
Wow, that's all it takes.
All it took.
Queen said, "Hey, you're not going to die," and she's like,
"Yeah." She became an immortal.
Shit.
And she also had the ability to like change what sex she was. So she started off as a man.
That'd be kind of neat.
And then she became a woman later on, throughout the ages. And during one time, she becomes a woman and hooks up with Billy Zane. And I think he was an American revolutionary or something. I don't really remember. Back in the 1700s.
So that was the one that your first wife was.
Yeah, because there's all kinds of abdominal action in that. Him laying in bed with his abs and shit, and fucking them rolling around. And I'd have to fucking look over and look at her like that, and she was just licking her lips. And I said, "You need to fucking knock it off." She's Billy Zane.
He's all right. I never really.
She liked his lips, you know.
Oh yeah, I guess.
His lips and fucking all kinds of shit.
I guess
yeah.
so.
She just thought.
I don't know. I never really thought about it, but yeah, he's an okay looking dude.
To me, he always looked a little bit like the dude from Kiss. Fucking what's that dude's name?
Wait, which one?
Fucking dude with the tongue.
Richard Brown said Tilda Swinton played Orlando. Oh, maybe I should watch that because I love her.
It's actually a pretty good movie.
Tilda Swinton is cool. I don't think I've ever seen it.
Dude from fucking not Peter Criss, the fucking
Gene Simmons.
Jim Simmons, yeah. For some reason,
Simmons.
he reminds me of a handsome Gene Simmons. Not to say Gene Simmons is ugly, but
he kind of. He is kind of.
When he was young, he was fucking look good, but you know, he's older now.
Slasher Fred said, if you guys ever see the underrated horror comedy film Jack Frost. Oh, I've seen it. It's great. It's hilarious. I haven't seen like any of the sequels, but the first one's like fucking hysterical. Yeah, about a serial killer who becomes a snowman. Yeah. I wanted to say, like, before we got too far away from the movie The Unkind that we're talking about. Oh, one, I wanted to say, why is it called that? Why is it called The Unkind? Because that doesn't have anything to do with anything. No. I wanted to so this is a little bit, this is kind of like emblematic of the kind of thing that I'm talking about, because this is the synopsis from IMDb, and it sounds like it was written by whoever wrote the script. Okay? So this is what it says. It says, in 2008, 6 friends from NY, New York, decide to vacation together in Italy, they think, which that should be a period there, but okay. They think they are in for a smooth and easy 2 weeks full of beers, partying, and fun. Their vacation soon turns sinister when strange thing starts to happen. And more than that, when they learn of the mansion's, without an apostrophe, devastating history and realize that there is more to the house than anyone could have expected. After accidentally they find a book that take them to a sealed grave, they unleash an ancient witch, a Streege, an unnamed and unstoppable demonic force thirsty of blood.
Now, who wrote this?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. But I said this sounds like the same person that wrote the dialogue for this movie. Yeah. The group goes out of control the mansion and the forest surrounding with no success. I don't really even know what they were trying to say there. The witch claimed them to certain death, one after the other. Ashley, the more empathetic of the group, wakes up with a start on her apartment in NY City. She is shocked. Flight tickets for Italy on the table in front of her. And his boyfriend, Nick, is taking a shower. Was it only a dream or perhaps a premonition? That's the synopsis that's on IMDb. Remember, there was one line in this that cracked us up. He said that, like, how did the woman that was the witch die? And the guy said he wounded her to death.
He wounded her to death. Wait a minute,
And I was like,
the fuck
what?
Is that? How do you wound somebody?
I mean, technically that's
yeah.
true, but I was like, what a weird way to put that.
An American would not even conceive of a sentence like that. She was wounded to death.
Yeah, he said he wounded her.
I wounded her to death. You mean beat her to death?
I think maybe that's like that's what I mean.
Beat her to death? Is that what you're talking about? That's the closest we do. Yeah.
But he didn't beat her to death.
No.
He impaled her on a tree branch, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it said in the other thing.
That's not wounding somebody to death. That's killing somebody.
To death.
Yeah. He killed her to death. Doesn't make any fucking sense. An American wouldn't.
That was like the line that made me laugh
Yeah.
the most. I was like, he wounded her to death.
There's also some weird shit that happened when they with the little van. They had a little Volkswagen van that they came in.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where they try to leave, but they can't because there's just a dead animal in the engine.
Yeah.
And they show it. It looks like a little fucking
It looked like
gopher.
a gopher
Groundhog.
or a baby beaver. I don't know what it was supposed to be.
I don't know. Just stuffed up against one, the side of it.
I'm like, how would that make your car not
Yeah,
start?
it's stuffed up next to the fucking exhaust manifold. And he goes, we'll try to... They couldn't get it started. And then he said, we'll try to fix it later.
We have to go and get, like, parts,
yeah.
but there's no place around here to get parts. We're stuck here.
Yeah. And the closeted guy, the undercover gay, says he's working on it. Okay? It's going to take him several days. But they don't have engine parts. I'm like, man, dialogue like this wouldn't even fucking fly in fucking... That would not fly in Italy. Come on. Italy has a long history of motorsports. They know how engines work.
Yeah, they know how engines work.
They know how engines work. Whoever wrote this doesn't know how to, if a dead animal is on top of the engine, that doesn't mean you need new parts and have to do an engine rebuild. It spun a bearing? What you fucking broke? You threw a rod? Come on, man. It's a fucking...
Well, I think it would have been
about?
creepier. Like I said, because the whole thing is supposed to be supernatural, because it's a
it
demon
wouldn't
witch,
start.
it wouldn't start, and that would be even creepier because it's like
Yeah.
we can't figure out what the problem is. Everything looks fine.
So riding problems. And you said, we tested the battery. Battery's good, but the car won't start. Starter's
Everything
good.
looks perfect. Why
Yeah.
won't it start? Like
Yeah,
they can't figure it out. That would be creepier.
You can even pull a plug and go, look, it's getting spark. Why isn't it starting?
Right.
And
you don't have to know that much about cars to rate that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Just ask a dude that works at Jiffy Lube.
Right.
For minimum wage, he'll tell you, no, it's got fuel, it's got fire, it's got air. It's turning over, but it won't start.
It won't start. We can't figure it out.
Fucking, yeah.
We can't figure it out.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's all you have to do.
That'd be a lot more sinister. If you have the right music playing.
Yeah, because there wouldn't be
going,
any reason,
boom, boom,
and that's like way
boom,
scarier.
boom, boom.
See?
Yeah,
Because
we even got Germans. We even got Germans in the audience. We say, then they go. Then a German dude comes in here and goes, "Let me stand aside. Stand back. Stand back.
You fucking Italians.
Yeah, let the
Pretending to be
original
Americans.
industrialites come in here. Engine, no problem. I'll make a new engine with a file. Give me a file. Put a new, yeah. You need a file and a pair of calipers. I'll get you a new crankshaft in 4 hours. Don't worry. Yeah.
Jeffy Art said, I saw an episode of News Radio where one of the characters reads this book that was retranslated from Japanese. It sounds like it was recycled through Google Translate.
Yeah.
Super puppy, happy man, go bye-bye now.
Yeah.
It's like, it wasn't quite that bad, but it was kind of like that. You could tell that whoever wrote it, like, that
English isn't their first language.
English wasn't their first language. Which, like I said, I'm not shitting on people who English is their second language, of course. But it's like, kind of get somebody that knows.
We live in the age of the internet. You could have subbed that out
to
massage that fucking script a bit so it was more organic and more American sounding. Although I'm going to back up and says these should have never been
don't
Americans.
even make them Americans. Don't make them
They
Americans.
should have been Italians.
Yeah.
And it would have been a much higher quality product in appearance and feel if it was just Italians. Even if they had, if you wanted to do an English version, have them speak in their own language, big thick accents and shit, it'd be cool as shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look at his... Well, shit, man. They put Asia Argento in fucking American and British movies all the time, and she has a super thick Italian accent.
Yeah.
Nobody complains about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't usually dub her sometimes.
Right, and maybe we would understand their behavior a little bit more if they weren't Americans. You know, some of the way they're treating women. Go away. Get away from me. Go in back in the house. That dude was bossing that girl around.
And then, like, every time...
they weren't even fighting.
And then, yeah, he was just basically... Go back inside.
Go back inside.
I'd be like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and then the one guy who I thought was the other guy, who was fucking around with the other guy's girlfriend, which, like I said, I didn't even realize she was fucking around for, like, half the movie because both the dudes look the same. So I was just kind of like... And then that guy, like, every time you did something that guy didn't like, you fucking bitch.
Yeah,
fucking bitch.
Fuck you, bitch. Yeah.
I was like, I hope that guy dies first.
Yeah.
Did he die?
I think they all died, didn't they?
Yeah, maybe they all did.
I think they
Spoiler
all
alert.
died. I think they all died. It's hard. Yeah, I think they all died.
I think they pretty much all did.
They were chained to those trees.
Yeah, that's right.
Danny
Rolling said, "Is this film better than Return to Salem's Lot?"
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Return to Salem's Lot was pretty bad.
Yeah, although Return to Salem's Lot had some entertainment factor to it. You know what I mean? It was kind of entertaining. It was bad, you know.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of feeling like
I was laughing.
I was feeling like contact embarrassment.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it is that
contact embarrassment.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
well, it's just kind of. I felt bad for everyone involved, and well, like I said, it's weird because it's in like this weird, ambivalent gray area where it's not so terrible that it's like hilarious because some of it was like competent.
Yeah.
But then there was like some parts of it that I was just like, ooh, and I was just like cringing like that, like the whole time. Like mostly like the dialogue scenes, you know? And it's just like all of these pointless conversations they were having, like the whole thing. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm bisexual and I slept with a woman. And I was like, okay, what is that? What bearing does that have on anything that's going on in this movie? Like nothing. And it's just like, I don't know. It was weird. Like all these conversations they had. And then whatever happened to that one other girl that wasn't quite as hot as the other ones? Like, did she get killed? She just, like, kind of disappeared from the movie, I thought. Maybe I missed it. Because, like I said, the horror-y scenes were competently done, but they were very dark. So a lot of times, like, I was like, wait, what just happened? The neutral container said, okay, I'm pretty sure I'll try and watch this now. Because it does seem to have some so bad it's good stuff in it. Yeah, particularly, like, all the dialogue stuff. But I'm going to say that some of it's just kind of, like, boring. So, because it's long. And
there are two other movies that are like this, in a way, that are a lot better. The Legacy, that's going to a mansion with witches, all right, that you can't leave, all right. And the other would be The Evil, which is getting trapped into a big house like this that has ghosts and a devil in it. Or
both of which are from 1978.
Yeah, but this movie is feels like a spiritual descendant of those, but one that has got special needs. You know, it's like a special. Yeah. Yeah.
Rude.
Like that, yeah.
Oh my god, I'm gonna be laughing about that all the rest of the night. That's terrible.
Yeah, I haven't done a good one like that in a while.
I know, yeah. That came out of left field, and I just like fucking cracked up.
Yeah.
This one, yeah, it's almost. I wanted to like this movie. I mean, like I said, the poster looks cool. The concept is cool. Like I said, it's not original. It's just like, you know, killer demon witch. And matter of fact, I just read a novel that has not the exact same premise, but is also like a demon witch kind of story. And I was like, oh, that's weird. And it's weird because now that I'm talking about the movie, I keep wanting to talk about the book because I just finished reading that because it has the same demon witch kind of angle to it. But I mean, but it was like, it would have been a solid story. It's just that I really wish there was better acting and like better voiceovers and like just some tweaks to the story. Like there was and edit like about 20 minutes out of this.
I would say 70% of this movie's problems would have been alleviated just by being Italian dialogue. Yeah. Italian language would have.
I think that would have helped immensely.
Yeah.
That would have helped immensely. And yeah, doing that and cutting out about 20 minutes, mostly of like dialogue or establishing character shit because nobody cares about that. You know what I mean?
Or whittle the conversations down to just the bare minimums, just to keep the movie rolling.
Or like I said, make them at least more relevant to the plot at large. Don't just make it like a bunch of random tendrils that have nothing to do with anything.
I think the script would have been better had it been in Italian, because an Italian person writing it would write like an Italian speaks. You know?
Yeah.
And so
it would seem like a lot more natural. Yeah. I mean, it's difficult enough writing in your native language, like writing a good story in your native language. I can't imagine, like, even if I could competently speak any second language, like, I can't imagine writing another story in that and, like, trying to convey, like, a person that's from that place when I'm not from there. Because, like, there are a lot of things that you don't think of.
Right. And tacky Americanisms, cultural Americanisms wouldn't have to be included. Like, there's just a tacky scene where little hottie runs up on her boyfriend and her ass cheeks are hanging out of the back of her fucking pants, and we're like, yeah, okay, she's American, right? Is that what you're saying? Ass cheeks hanging. And then she jumps up on him and straddles him in a hug to say hi to him. We're like, yeah, that's kind of like fucking Birdemic, where white people just sit around and fucking sit on each other's laps.
That still makes
That's
me
what
laugh.
dating
From
is.
Birdemic.
Is to sit on people's laps. That's how Americans date. And that if you meet a girl in public, you can follow her home and knock on her door and say, I saw you on the street. You're just the most beautiful thing. You're going to get shot.
Like I said.
Okay.
Or maced at the very least.
Maced at the very least. That girl's going to fucking run out there and fucking grab a fucking shotgun and call the cops. Get the fuck away. You're lucky if she doesn't fucking shoot you. Okay. This is fucking America. All right.
We don't play that here.
No, you follow a woman home, that's attempted rape.
We don't play that.
Basically. Yeah.
Well, that's very threatening.
Hell yeah.
It's just really weird how dudes would not understand that that's very threatening behavior.
No,
it's like,
dudes
bitch,
would understand
I'm like, bitch, I don't know you.
Dudes would understand that.
Well, no, I'm just saying the dude that made this movie.
Every Western dude, there's no dude in the West that would ever follow a girl home. You're gonna.
Unless they had bad intentions, which just proves the point.
Right.
Which just proves the point.
That's something a dude over in, where was he from? Philippines. I think he was from Philippines or Thailand.
Is he Filipino or
something like that?
Vietnamese? I can't remember.
Yeah, Vietnamese. That's something in the Far East you might dream up. That's how you meet a white girl. You just see her and you follow her. Keep following. Eventually, she'll break down. She'll go out with you.
To me, that
follow her home.
I mean, they did that a lot. About? Well, they did that a lot in old movies too. Like I kind of feel like older movies did that as well.
Where I love you, so therefore you love me.
So you have to love me back whether you want to or not.
Yeah, that was 20s.
Yeah,
and 30s.
Like they would just keep like stalking you, like you know what I mean, and showing up where you were. I'm like, dude, you get put on a list for that.
And the woman would be smiling like, I got him now, this sucker. But then I don't know, fucking I guess they were just trying to let it be known that women are dying to get married to the first guy that comes along. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's
what it was.
Well, like I said, a lot of women didn't write those movies. So.
Yeah, just some guy fantasized that women are dying to get married to the very first guy that comes along. Yeah.
Yep, you'll do.
Yeah, you'll do.
Oh, someone paid attention to me.
Yeah. It's time for me to get married. Yeah.
Which, that's not how that shit works, though.
It was pre-dating culture,
I guess.
So it was like.
Well, the funny thing about the scene in Birdemic, it's not just that. I mean, that whole like lap scene that you were talking about.
Yeah.
It's not just that. It wouldn't have been weird. It's like if they were on the couch in the living room, like having sex, like she was straddling him.
Yeah.
But they weren't. They were both fully dressed. He was laying there, and she was straddling him, and they weren't moving.
No.
Or they weren't even like looking at each other. It was so bizarre.
Yeah.
And I was just like sitting there going, what are they doing?
It's a non.
It was so weird.
It's a non-Westerner's interpretation of Western dating culture.
It was just so weird.
Yeah.
I'm just like, this seems like someone from outer space, like trying to like, what the fuck is that about? That's like not even like, a cultural difference. I'm just like, that's another species. I'm sorry. Yeah. Zach says it's like how in period movies, characters are using old slang every 5 seconds. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure people didn't talk like that. Yeah, it's like you put it back, it's like, hey, 23 skidoo, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm just, people weren't talking like that. It's like maybe every now and then. Well, because people don't use slang nowadays. That would be like, 40, 50 years from now. Like somebody made a movie that was set this year. And like they made the whole movie and everybody was talking in like emojis and like, like text kind of stuff like that. And it's like people don't talk like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, so this movie, if you're curious, is called The Unkind, and it's on Tubi. Like I said, we just kind of came across it randomly, while we were scrolling.
It's kind of funny looking back on it.
It is,
but
yeah.
It's unintentionally. But
it's unintentionally funny. Yeah. It's not, like I said, it's not bad enough to be hilarious.
No.
So,
it's actually competently made.
Yeah.
It's just the script and the dialogue mostly.
Like I said, we're not talking about a Birdemic or The Room or a Troll 2 situation where it's just a shit show of epic proportions and it's just hysterically funny.
Yeah.
It's not hysterical. It's more it got some chuckles out of us, though. I think, though I think he wounded her to death was made me laugh the hardest.
Yeah. Like I said, most of the movie's problems would disappear if it was just Italians, Italians speaking in Italian.
Right.
And if the characters were written to be Italian, I think a lot of the problems would have vanished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The neutral container said, that reminds me, the Germans in Vanquish from 2021 were terrible and were clearly played by Americans. That's another way this can go. Yeah, I just kind of wish that, like I said, right around what you have, especially if you're low budget, if you have actors that are a particular, have a particular accent or whatever, just make the character from there. It's not that's a big deal, right. in the story.
And if you don't have Germans, don't make Americans be Germans. Just,
Do we have any Germans? Do we have any laying around?
Right, yeah.
Look in the back. Maybe we have some Germans. But yeah, so...
You write the story around what you have.
Write the story around what you have, and it will seem a lot more naturalistic instead of trying to force things into an idea that you have when you don't really have the time or the budget. If you, if you're making a movie for $250 million and you can afford to get whoever the fuck you want, then that's different.
Yeah, I haven't seen a good German movie, really. I don't remember any... I can't think of a German movie that I like.
Downfall?
Yeah, Downfall was pretty good.
Dead Snow?
Yeah. I don't think I saw that one. I don't think I saw
Dead Snow was German, wasn't it?
I don't think I saw that movie.
You'd like it. It's zombie Nazis.
Although Germans can make good music, man, and real good music videos. Rammstein's music videos, the new ones, are fucking excellent. They had good ones even back in the day. But I looked at some of the new Rammstein stuff. Fucking Dick Titten. Fucking hilarious, man. And the one where they're going through the ages, shows the Germans throughout the ages, and in the end there's a bunch of damn gangster rappers and shit. Fucking the band. It's just hilarious, But no, they had some good shit, good quality stuff. But I haven't seen any good German movies other than just Downfall. That's kind of old now. That's at least 20 years old probably.
Yeah, when did that come out? I can't remember.
I don't know if they're making anything right now. Probably, they're making art films and shit.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Don't shit on art films. I like them. Danny Rowling said, what's tomorrow's The Haunting review episode going to be? Well, you sent me a message that had 3 different ones, so we'll probably do one of those. Maybe we'll do Casa de los Muertos, or... Did we do Spellbound? That was one that he asked for.
Spellbound was another good one that had some witches in it and some gothic witches in there.
Yeah, Spellbound. And then I can't remember what the other one was. I wrote it down, but it's over there. So
let's do Spellbound.
Well, I got to check and make sure we haven't done that one already.
Okay.
But... So it'll either be Spellbound or it'll be Casa de los Muertos, which is actually on that disc right there, because that's the same disc that had the last one we did on it.
I know we haven't done Casa de los Muertos. We'll just do that.
Yeah, we haven't done that one.
We'll do that one.
Okay, we'll do Casa de los Muertos.
Because I know we haven't done that one.
Yeah, and I'm sure we haven't done that one.
Yeah.
Pat says, if it's on Tubi, this movie, that means I can watch it, but should I? From what I'm hearing, I think the answer is a resounding no. I mean, it's up to you. It depends on... if you have better things to spend an hour and 43 minutes on. Like I said, it's not... It just falls into this gray area. Like I said, I'm a big... if something's going to be bad, be so bad it's good. Be over the top and hilarious. This one doesn't really fall into that. Like I said, it's half okay, and then the other half is, pretty cringy. But it's not so bad that it's... It's kind of it's not as bad as something like Ouija Shark, but which is terrible and looked like it was made for $5, but it's kind of the same spirit where they had kind of I don't know. Although I feel like Ouija Shark, they're like, oh, we have this wacky idea, but that's about as far as they took it. Like, they didn't really, and then the rest of it was just kind of half-assed.
Yeah. I've seen 80s porn with a tighter story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's pretty bad. They're obviously just making it up as they're going along.
Right.
And just having cute American girls scantily clad with boobs jumping around and washing cars and stuff. That just... And they're being, they're being shameless about it. They know what they're doing, but that gets bored real quick. Like those girls are not going to have sex. The movie's, I don't even think it's rated R. So why are you watching this? You know what I mean?
It's like if this is
just watch porn.
Yeah, it's like if this isn't going to turn into porn, I'm just going to turn it off right now.
Right. Had
you could even leave the shark in it if you want.
Had you just left the shark in it, made it porn, it'd be a lot better.
Ouija porn shark.
Ouija porn shark. Ouija porn shark XXX. And it would have been but the thing is
Not gonna lie,
they don't
probably
make
watch
porn
that.
movies anymore, I don't think. Why would you waste time on making a
full-length movie.
feature film like they used to?
Well, because back in the day you had to go to a theater.
You had to go to the theater,
and it's like you didn't want to feel like you wasted your money, I guess.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
They were doing Oscars and doing awards and everything back in the 70s, doing their own version of the Oscars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Neutral Container said Dark was great. That's right. I forgot all about that. That was a Netflix series.
Oh,
I
was
loved that. I loved that.
I think I saw like one episode or saw a part of an episode you were watching.
Yeah, I think it was 3 seasons. That was one you really had to pay attention to because it was very, very complicated. It had to do with like a lot of time travel and all this stuff. I mean, you had to have like
dimension
a fucking
doors. And
you had to have like a fucking flow chart like to figure out like who. And there was like versions of all the characters like at different ages and like.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able
this
to handle
guy.
that.
It was you really had to like pay attention.
Not for me.
Pat says Ouija Shark can't possibly be as bad as Shark Exorcist.
I remember Shark Exorcist.
Did we see Shark
Exorcist? Saw that
Exorcist?
one too, I think. Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
No, Ouija Shark was worse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of those kind of movies, of course, fucking Velocipaster is the best one. That's actually an excellent film. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it goes all the way around. It becomes like awesome again.
And they know what they're dealing with, and they know how to fuck with you. I have that, don't I? I think I have.
I think you might.
I have Velocipaster.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
I'm pretty sure that's also free on Tubi.
Yeah.
Or it used to be. I don't know if it is anymore. All right, so we've gone on for like an hour.
Yeah. You want something to eat?
Yeah.
Okay. Make something to eat.
All right. So yeah, tomorrow is a Haunting Mondays. We're gonna do Casa de los Muertos.
Yeah.
So that should be fun. Yeah, because I'm sure we haven't done that one.
No,
And I remember that being like a good episode. And I don't think I've seen it.
It's almost to the point where it doesn't matter if we did it or not. If we get the same amount of hits, everybody still love it because we'd just be doing it again. That would have been back before we were even on camera. Back when we just did
when we were just invisible, when we were disembodied voices.
And then when people saw us for the first time, like, man, we didn't think you guys would look like that.
But see, I think that every time that I listen to somebody for a really long time and then I see them, I'm just like, that's absolutely... I'm never sure like what I exactly expected them to look like. But I'm like, well, not that. Right. That's like all I can...
Yeah.
So if you'd asked me to like describe them, like I wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, and the first time they saw Jenny, it was just nothing but cleavage and boobs. And they're like, whoa! And I think we had like fucking $300 or $400 in super chats that day on that first show. Remember that?
No, I don't remember that.
Yeah, the first time we streamed, I think we got it was long. I think we had $300 or $400 in super chats.
I remember we streamed like I think the first time we streamed was like one of our like big apps, like the 200th or 300th or something like that. I don't remember what it was.
And we didn't have a studio or anything. It was just we were just in a room.
Just a wall.
Just a wall.
My old office at the old house.
Yeah.
All right. So thanks for dropping by today, everybody, talking about this kind of not that great movie. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow talking about a haunting. That should be a lot of fun. We'll have some drinks and talk about some haunting shit. So have a good rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Bye.